Today on Politics Unplugged, it was another drama-filled week on Capitol Hill as Congress tried to avoid another government shutdown. We speak with Congressman Greg Stanton. Plus, Arizona Republicans picked a new leader ahead of the midterms, and an independent candidate launches his bid for governor in history. The panel tries to make sense of it all now on Politics Unplugged.
Good evening. I'm political editor Dennis Welch. This is Politics Unplugged. Last week, lawmakers on Capitol Hill rushed to avoid yet another government shutdown. Here to talk about that, Arizona Congressman Greg Stanton. I want to thank you very much for being here. Take some time out of your schedule. Here we are again. How did we get here? Didn't we just do this shutdown, a record-long shutdown a few months ago? How did we get here?
Well, the difference is that this would only be a partial government shutdown, particularly on the appropriations bill, which covers ICE and all the ICE activities that are going on across America. But yes, technically, as we are taping this tonight, if the Senate cannot reach agreement, there would be a partial government shutdown starting Friday evening.
And the House has already passed it, but it looks like some changes are going to be made as we speak right now over in the Senate. So it looks like this bill is going to be coming back to your side, back to the House, and you're going to have to vote on this again. Now, the holdup on the whole thing, the snag, is funding for DHS, for ICE, and these raids. What do Democrats, what do you want to see in this bill to support it?
Yeah, and I think it's really the American people. The American people are insisting that we have stronger accountability measures. What we've seen in Minneapolis with the shooting and deaths of two of our fellow citizens, knowing that these ICE officers and Border Patrol that are in the streets are not trained to the level, for example, of a Phoenix police officer in terms of de-escalation techniques in dealing with people on the streets of an American city. So what we are insisting on, what the American people are insisting on, is accountability measures. Those masks has to come off, just like Phoenix police officers don't wear masks. Body cams have to be on. That is a critically important accountability and transparency measure. There needs to be an appropriate code of conduct. No more of these roving raids. Go get an actual judicial warrant if you're going to do any kind of a raid, not roaming raids through the streets. And please stay away from schools, from churches, from hospitals. Can we reach agreement about where it's inappropriate to do this? Look, the American people want people who are in this country that have committed violent crimes that are undocumented to be deported. There is bipartisan support for that. But what we're seeing, how they're enforcing these ways, putting the American public at risk, including these two tragic deaths, is unacceptable to the American people. And we are demanding, the American people are demanding, that there be real accountability and transparency. Independent investigations as well.
Well, what are your thoughts? What we've seen in the past few days is that the controversial Border Patrol figure, the commander at large, Greg Bavino, has lost that title. They've moved home and in to take over operations, at least in Minneapolis. The agents involved in the Alex Preddy shooting, the ones who fired their gun and shot him, apparently have been placed on leave. Are you happy with these results? Are you satisfied with how the administration is now handling this situation?
No. How the hell does Kristi Noem still have a job? First off, last summer I called for her to be fired because she also oversees FEMA. There was a horrific flood in Texas. Over 100 people died. Young girls at a camp there died. She was so slow to react. Those urban search and rescue teams, including Phoenix Fire Department, they could have been there within 6 hours. 3 days before they put urban search and rescue from FEMA. That likely cost lives. She should have lost her job then. Now she's in charge of this somewhat law enforcement entity that isn't trained for what they're doing. They're covering their faces with masks. It's essentially a secret police force with roving raids around the streets of Minneapolis. It's inevitable that this violence has occurred. 2 of our fellow Americans have unnecessarily died because she is really bad and, frankly, incompetent at her job. If she was in charge of any police department in the Valley of the Sun, she would have been fired a long time ago. If President Trump doesn't fire Kristi Noem, then she needs to be impeached.
Is this something that could hold up these budget funding negotiations? Is this something Democrats can demand before fully funding DHS?
We say the Democrats demand. The American public are demanding. This is not a Republican or Democratic thing. People want to see transparency and accountability in any law enforcement organization. There shouldn't be special lesser standards just because these are federal agents, either of Border Patrol or ICE, that are roaming the streets of America. If you're going to engage in law enforcement, there should be appropriate due process and appropriate accountability. That is not happening right now, and the American people are demanding appropriate changes.
You know, I understand when you're saying the American people are demanding this, and it's not a Democrat-Republican issue. However, in Congress, it very much is. Is there any indication at all that there is support amongst your Republican colleagues, too, that Kristi Noem should be impeached and lose her position?
You need to read some of the comments of senators. Read Senator Tom Tillis, what he said about her. He said exactly as passionate as I am speaking right now about the need to get rid of Kristi Noem. She is not competent for the position for what she is in. It is putting Americans' lives at risk because of her incompetence. He's called for the exact same thing. So this is not a partisan issue. There is bipartisan support for the need to make massive changes within that organization. We're not asking for anything that we wouldn't expect of the highly trained law enforcement officials here in our local communities. We are expecting that if you're going to be in a law enforcement capacity, you have the proper training, learn about de-escalation techniques, take the mask off, identify yourself, independent investigations, get a judicial warrant at least, and stay away so people aren't afraid to take children to schools or go to a doctor visit, or if they're in the hospital or a senior center. There are certain places where we can agree as Americans, people should not have to worry about being swept off the streets.
So walk us through what to expect this next week then, if things, let's say the Senate can't pass this weekend, or they do pass this over the weekend and send it back to the House. Walk us through what people should expect.
Well, there would be a partial government shutdown of the areas in which the DHS funding bill would cover. Obviously, it includes ICE. Now, ICE has plenty of money. In the one big beautiful bill, remember the bill that cut Medicaid, the largest cuts in American history. They're going to take millions of people off of health care. The American people overwhelmingly oppose that bill. In that bill, it put this massive funding increases. I voted no. Put these massive funding increases for ICE without any accountability measures. ICE has plenty of money. Now we're asking that these accountability measures be put into place. But that department could continue even with a short-term CR. But there would be only what's called a partial government shutdown while we go on with these negotiations over these accountability measures. But we need to move quickly. We need to get it done right away, not just because of the pending government shutdown, but more importantly, for the safety of the American people and the safety of the officers themselves. When you're trained better in de-escalatory techniques, is both safer for the community and for the officers themselves.
Now, let's wrap up with this then. Over this past few days, a major political fight amongst your top Democrats in your party broken up between Chris Mayes, Governor Katie Hobbs. Chris Mayes was being criticized for some comments she made where she had mentioned that if ICE agents are going to start doing no warrant knocks, that they need to be really careful in Arizona because there are strong stand your ground rules. Republicans are saying they took that as Mayes giving a permission for people to potentially shoot ICE agents. Republicans have called for her to resign. Chris Mayes has said her words were taken out of context and were twisted. But Governor Hobbs has said still that Mayes should recant and retract those words. Do you agree with the governor that Chris Mayes should retract what she said about this?
I work very closely with Governor Hobbs. I work very closely with Chris Mayes, not just because we're the same political party, but we share values. And I know the values of those two leaders. And they want to make the community as safe as possible. They want the community members to be safe, and they want law enforcement to be safe. And I think that they're both on the same page in that regard. I'm certainly on the same page in that regard. And I think both leaders, that is the point that they have been trying to make.
Did you hear anything in what Mayes said that you thought was inappropriate, though?
Well, I think what she's trying to get across, as the governor is also trying to get across, that as ICE is engaging in these pursuits, that they want to make sure the community is as safe as possible and that the officers involved are as safe as possible. That is the right thing to do, is to advocate for the safety and security of everyone involved. And I think both of our statewide elected officials, the Attorney General and the Governor, are pursuing the same policy choices, the same priorities, and I share those priorities.
So you don't think May should retract anything of what she said?
Well, I think she gave another statement to try to make it as
she's
to
clarified,
make it clear.
but
Look,
since
I know you know the Attorney General. I know the Attorney General. I know the Governor. We work closely together. The Attorney General would not want to say or do anything other than to support the safety and security of the community and of law enforcement. And I think that she put out clarifying comments to make that absolutely clear. Look, this is politics, and people are going to try to twist words around for political advantage. I know both of those top elected officials in the state of Arizona. Both of them are focused in on the safety of this community.
All right. Thank you very much for taking some time and stopping by here. And still ahead on Politics Unplugged, I'm bringing in the panel to talk about some of the major changes in the Arizona Republican Party and the governor's race.
New leaders, new faces, and rising tensions on Valley streets. This is your weekly political roundup. Arizona Republicans picked a new party chair for the midterms. Sergio Arredondo is the first Hispanic to hold the post and replaces Gina Swoboda, who stepped down to focus on her run for Congress. The Arizona governor's race got another new face. Hugh Lidle, a businessman and former ASU quarterback, is trying to become the first independent to win the state's highest office. Some call it a long shot, but he's throwing the Hail Mary anyway. Meanwhile, back on our streets, tensions heated up after federal agents raided a chain of local sports bars. In one case, cell phone video captures federal authorities spraying anti-ICE protesters and bystanders with a chemical agent. And finally, the controversial Border Patrol Chief Greg Bavino lost his job as commander-at-large. And the federal agents who fired their guns during the killing of a 37-year-old ICU nurse in Minneapolis have been placed on leave. And that was your political roundup for the week.
And joining us now to talk about all of that is Republican consultant Marcus Dell'Artino and Democrat Tony Connie. Let's start with you. Big changes over at the state Republican Party, nominating a new chairman. Gina Swoboda is now stepping down to focus again on her run for Congress. Your thoughts on these changes before a very competitive or important midterm election?
You know, I said this more than a dozen times on here, but increasingly parties are becoming irrelevant. And I would tell you, congratulations to Sergio. He works down at the Capitol. It'll be a nice connection to have those members close to the chairman. But I will tell you that, Turning Point is who is going to fund the Republican candidates. The independent expenditure for the legislative races is going to fund those candidates. The Republican Party has just become, and the Democratic Party, frankly, both of them have become increasingly irrelevant as campaign finance laws have changed so dramatically that it makes more sense for these independent expenditure committees to run the campaigns that they want to, rather than funneling it through party structures.
And do you agree that parties have become irrelevant, and do you think this won't have much of a change? Because a lot of what I've heard from Republicans was Gina Swoboda really ran a pretty good party, administrated it very well. But how do you see it?
Well, I think parties have become less important because of the campaign finance structure. But let's not forget, the Supreme Court is going to be looking at that, and a lot of indications are that whole scheme might be thrown out. And so parties could become very important again very soon. So you want to have somebody in charge who you can trust. And so, I think the party should be registering voters, raising money. That's basically recruiting volunteers. And those are massive tasks. I'm not saying that those are unimportant. And so, on the Democratic side, there's been a voter registration deficit. And so the Democratic Party now is investing in the state to do partisan registration. That's the kind of stuff that the party needs to be doing. And if there's turmoil, it can't get done. And I
would just say, even to your point on registering voters, Turning Point on the Republican side has been the organization that's registering those voters, not the party.
That's true.
And to your point, the Democrats have a massive deficit and got to get in gear. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem.
Let me ask you this. The new chair works down at the Capitol. He's part of the comms team, I believe, at the State House. He's going to keep the job, and he's going to be the chairman of the party. Does that create any kind of a conflict of interest?
I I mean, I can't think of one off the top of my head. Gina Gina was a contract employee, but she was chairman of the party as well. I'm hard pressed to think of one on the top of my head, but I'm sure somebody can.
I'm sure somebody on the other side of the table can come up with one.
I was going to say.
Well, I mean, the challenge is that typically when you're a government person, you're not going to be raising money from people who have business before the legislature, and he is going to be in the business of raising money from a lot of the people who have business in front of the legislature. That happens anyway with elected officials raising and all that kind of stuff.
I mean,
but I think that's the type of thing people are talking about as a potential problem.
And to be clear, it's not a new thing because Swoboda, the old chair, the outgoing chairman, had a gig or a contract gig down at the legislature.
Yeah, there's been a lot of connections between the legislature and the parties over time, but that is the thing that you can point to.
But it is relatively new to see this, correct?
Well, and Tehran was running, and she was, a sitting legislator. I would remind everybody, I think this is an important point, chairmen don't get paid by the party, and so this is a volunteer position, so there's not money to be made,
on the Republican side, the Democratic Party has been paying their chair for the past couple of terms.
Okay.
There's a movement to do that now in the Democratic Party, but that's because you want it to be a full-time person. You don't want them to have a job in the legislature. You want them to be able to focus on the job full-time, but that's a structural thing. Sorry.
Let's shift now. Let's talk about a candidate who is not part of either the Republican or the Democratic Party, Hugh Lidle. Independent parties running under the Arizona Independent Party, the rebranded No Labels Party, is what they formerly were known as. Does he have any kind of a shot to win?
No, I don't think he has any kind of a shot to win. I think that his biggest ambition is likely to be a spoiler. Obviously everybody has a right to run, but one of the things that you see when you look at these races, when there is a third-party candidate, is that people today in America, in Arizona, are making their choice based on the party label. And so it is a big challenge for somebody, even when people are dissatisfied with the two parties, to run and say, hey, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, vote for me, unless they have a pre-existing sort of relationship with voters, which this gentleman certainly doesn't.
And get your take on this. I mean, you hear from voters all the time. They're tired of the two-party system. They want a third option, but time and time again, the voters don't say that when they go to the polls.
Yeah, I think even their, quietly, their structure, their consultants, the people around Hugh will tell you that they don't expect to win, but they do expect this to be the beginning of something, and you got to get started somewhere. The problem with this, of course, is now you've opened up a lane for independents, and they have somewhere to go. It will say independent on the ballot. And that's going to cause a problem for Hobbes and for the Democrats who have this massive voter registration issue going on. I think we're at 7.5% difference now. And so, Democrats more increasingly need independents than Republicans do, and so Hugh could really play the part of a big spoiler.
Yeah, on that note, we'll wrap with this. How could this hurt Hobbes? It seems like Hobbes is really focused on getting those moderates, independents, moderate Republicans, center voters out there. An independent candidate like this could also be competing for that. So even if he only got 5-6% of the vote, that could hurt Hobbes, right?
Sure, 5% could hurt. I mean, these are going to be close races. I think, though, that they're going to be competing for those voters. We'll see whether or not he's able to compete for the voters. And I don't think voters are going to vote just because they see the word independent next to the ballot in a midterm election. All
right, we're going to have to stop right now for a minute. But up next, we're keeping the panel right here to talk about Governor Hobbes and why she's calling on Attorney General Chris Mays to take her words back. And thanks for sticking around here, guys. We still got a few more things to talk about. Obviously, there's a big fight now to the top leaders in your party, the Attorney General Chris Mays, Governor Katie Hobbes, over comments Mays said about the ICE raids and stand your ground laws. Hobbes is calling on Mays to retract her statements now. Mays has clarified, but apparently that wasn't good enough for the governor. You've seen the interview. You've seen what Mays has said. Did she say anything inappropriate?
I don't think she said anything inappropriate. I think that she is considering that there could be a risk in this sort of highly volatile environment. And she went and she sort of clarified her statements. And, I think that a lot of the hubbub around this is super political in the sense that, like, the legislature, going and trying to, do a resolution saying she should resign, all the things that you talked about. And you look at the Senate president who previously voted not to censure Wendy Rogers, who actually did, threaten her colleagues. And, in Mark Fincham, one of the people who voted for it, he was involved with the group that did the Bundy standoff, which is an armed sort of standoff in Oregon. And so there's a lot of politics involved in it.
And you can't take it away that Peterson's also running for her job.
Running, that's correct. And I think that, the governor, gave her statement because she wants to take the temperature down, but I don't think that the Attorney General said anything wrong.
Yeah, Marcus, why is the governor speaking out on this right now?
I think she wants to hold those endorsements. I mean, she's got a pretty good relationship with law enforcement right now. She knows she's going to win into a campaign. She wants those endorsements from PLEA and DPS's organization, APA, but the list goes on and on. And so I think that she felt some sort of a little bit of pressure to say something about that situation.
Yeah,
and to Tony's point, to calm it down a little bit.
Yeah, and these are two politicians taking two very different paths. Mays has emerged kind of as the Arizona face for the Democratic resistance to the Trump administration. Hobbes, not so much. Does either one of these figures here suffer at the polls in November because of this issue today?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think that a big part of the difference between the tack that they've each taken has been that the Attorney General's job is to represent the voters of Arizona in lawsuits, and that's been the avenue that most of the way to fight back on some of the illegal action the Trump administration has come forward. And the Mays administration has stepped up, and they've done those lawsuits. And I think that voters are really grateful about that. I think that voters are going to look at the big picture here and make their decision based on that. So I'm sure we're going to see TV ads about this.
You're definitely going to see TV ads about this.
But I don't think it's going to be as big of a deal as I think some.
But back to Tony's point, I'm going to tell you that I don't think that this will be the difference that makes the difference in the election. What will make the difference is Democrats at some point, you should probably register some voters. I know they keep talking about it, but it's not actually happening, and we are. I think my opinion is we have passed the point of no return. It's too late. But maybe I will be proven wrong.
All right. Well, let's wrap on this. We saw federal agents raid a chain of sports bars across the valley. Immediately, people connected that to ICE and those types of raids, and you saw protests break out pretty quickly on that. However, this appears to be not like what we're seeing in other parts of the country or those moves. This appears to be stemming from a long-term investigation. Still, we did see tensions heat up there between protesters and federal agents. Your thoughts on this week? Is this a preview of what could come if ICE comes here and ramps up efforts?
My first thought was somebody should be charged with assault on your taste buds for that food at that place. And the fact that they call that a flatbread is offensive to every Italian.
Oh, boy.
That being said,
oh, boy.
It was a year-long investigation. There is forging of federal documents, which is a massive no-no. We set up the E-Verify system to do exactly this, and they're trying to bypass it. But yes, you can expect more raids like this. Absolutely. I don't think we're going to have the presence that we've seen in Minneapolis because those agents don't look like they're leaving as quickly as people had thought. But I think we are going to see some increased activity.
And real quick, any thoughts on the raids we saw this week?
I just think that it just shows that people are very concerned about their civil rights being violated, and this is part of the problem with what's going on in Minneapolis, is that if this is a legitimate law enforcement operation, this stuff is getting conflated, and so it is up to the administration in D.C. to let's allow the good work to get done by knocking off all the bad stuff. All right, we're going to have to wrap right there. Thanks for sticking around, and I'm enjoying your new role as food critic at large here on the show, but that's all the time we have. We'll see you next week. Good night.